What if I told you that the mountain of debt before you is nothing more than a shadow you are casting from a false belief about yourself? What if your bills, your creditors, your sleepless nights are not real problems at all, but symptoms of a single illness, a sickness of consciousness? Tonight, I want to share with you 3 techniques that will not bring you money. They will do something far more powerful. They will change who you are being. And when you change who you are being, money must change its relationship to you. This is not theory. I have seen the hopelessly indebted become debt-free in days. I have watched mountains dissolve into mist. The question is not whether this will work. The question is, will you do it? In the next 70 minutes, you are going to receive 3 techniques that have freed countless men and women from the bondage of debt. But understand this clearly, I am not going to teach you how to make money. I am going to teach you something far more fundamental. I am going to teach you how to change the state from which you are seeing yourself. You see, your problem is not that you lack funds. Your problem is that you are seeing yourself from a state of lack. And as long as you remain identified with that state, the world must mirror it back to you. The bill collectors, the mounting interest, the sleepless nights, these are not causes of your suffering. They are effects. They are shadows cast by a false belief about who you are. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change the shadow. They work harder, longer hours, they beg, borrow, and scrape. And what happens? The shadow remains, or it grows darker, because they never change the thing casting it. They never change their consciousness. I know what you have been taught. You have been taught that debt is a practical problem requiring practical solutions. Get a second job, cut expenses, negotiate with creditors. And yes, in the world of effects, these things may seem necessary, but they will never set you free, because they are still rooted in the consciousness of being in debt. Tonight, you are going to learn a different way. You are going to learn what I learned after years of testing this law, that you are not a victim of circumstance, you are a creator. Your imagination is God. And when you learn to control your imaginal activity, when you learn to dwell in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you will discover that the whole vast world has no choice but to reorganize itself around your new assumption. This is not theory. This is tested truth. I have seen the hopelessly indebted become debt-free in a matter of days. I have watched businessmen on the brink of bankruptcy receive unexpected checks that exceeded their need. I have witnessed the seemingly impossible become the gloriously inevitable, not through manipulation, not through luck, but through the faithful application of these 3 techniques. The 3 techniques you will master tonight are these. First, you will learn the technique of living in the end, how to assume the feeling of being debt-free before you have a single penny of evidence. You will learn why thinking from freedom is radically different than thinking of freedom, and how this one shift dissolves mountains. Second, you will discover the power of revision, the mystical art of rewriting your past. You will learn that your debt is nothing more than an unrevised scene that keeps playing itself forward. And when you revise that scene in imagination, you change not only your future, but your present as well. Third, I will reveal to you the secret of I Am consciousness, how to enter that formless, faceless awareness where you are not this or that, but simply are. In this sacred state, you will plant new seeds of identity, and these seeds, watered by your feeling, will blossom into the very thing you are conscious of being. Why is this approach uniquely powerful? Other teachings will tell you to visualize, to affirm, to set intentions, and these things have their place. But they often fail because they keep you in a state of desiring, which is to say, a state of not having. They keep you reaching for something outside yourself. What I'm giving you tonight is different. I am teaching you to become that which you desire, not to get it, to be it. And when you become it in consciousness, the entire structure of your world must conform to that assumption. This is the secret the ages have hidden. This is what Scripture has veiled in symbol and parable. I am the resurrection and the life. Not I will be, not I hope to be. I am, present tense, now. And when you learn to say, I am free, I am abundant, I am debt-free, and to feel it with the naturalness of wearing your own skin, then, my friend, you will understand what it means to have dominion over your world. You are not here by accident. If you are watching this tonight, if something drew you to these words, know that it is not coincidence. Your deeper self is calling you to remember your power. You are being invited to step out of the prison of circumstance and into the freedom of consciousness. And I promise you this, if you apply what you learned tonight with faith and persistence, your debt will dissolve not because you fought against it, but because you ceased to be the person who could be in debt. Now let us begin. Let me take you into a story that changed how I understood desperation and deliverance. Some years ago, a woman came to my lectures. She was 55 years old, and if you know anything of the world, you know that 55 is not a kind age for a woman seeking employment. She had no job. Her bank account was nearly empty. She was behind in her rent. She had no family to fall back upon, no friends with means to help. The world would have called her situation hopeless, but this woman had been attending my lectures for nearly a year, and in her desperation, she decided to test what I had been teaching. She had nothing to lose. At first, she tried to imagine every specific thing she needed: a job, a car, money for rent, proper clothes. But she found herself exhausted by the enormity of the list. She would lie in bed, trying to visualize each need being met, and by the time she finished her mental catalogue, she was so nervous she could not sleep. Then one night, she remembered something I had said. I had told the story of an artist who had captured not the specific details of his desire, but the feeling, the single word of "Isn't it wonderful?" And so she changed her approach. Instead of imagining every article she needed, she simply tried to capture the feeling that something wonderful was happening to her. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. Each night, as she fell asleep, she would whisper to herself, "Isn't it wonderful? Something marvelous is happening to me now." And she would feel the way she imagined she would feel if something truly wonderful were unfolding in her life. She did this for 2 months. 60 nights of falling asleep in a feeling that had no evidence in her outer world. 60 nights of living in an invisible state while her circumstances screamed the opposite. Then, in early October, she happened to meet a casual friend she had not seen in months. They spoke briefly about his recent trip to New York. Nothing remarkable. They parted ways. She completely forgot the conversation. 1 month later, exactly 1 month, this man appeared at her door and placed in her hands a certified check for $2,500. The story that unfolded was like something from a dream. It concerned an old friend she had not seen or heard from in more than 25 years. This friend had become extremely wealthy during those years, and through the mutual acquaintance, he had heard of her, and for reasons she would never fully understand, he decided to share a portion of his wealth with her. But here is where the story becomes truly miraculous. For the next 2 years, from the office of his attorney, she received monthly checks. Not small checks, generous checks that covered every necessary requirement of daily living and left much over for the lovely things of life. A car, beautiful clothes, a spacious apartment, and best of all, no need to earn her daily bread. Then, this past month, she received a letter and legal papers to sign, papers that provide the continuation of this monthly income for the rest of her natural life. Now, What did she do? She imagined no specific person. She schemed no plan. She performed no ritual. She simply dwelt, night after night, in the feeling that something wonderful was happening. And the whole vast world, with all its seeming randomness and coincidence, arranged itself to make that feeling a fact. This is what I mean when I say feeling is the secret. Not thinking about what you want, not hoping for it, but feeling it as already accomplished, already here, already happening now. Now let me tell you of a man who discovered the power of revision. He ran a small business, a sole proprietorship, and during one of our country's minor recessions, he found himself drowning. Sales had fallen for months. He was badly in debt and needed at least $3,000 immediately just to keep his doors open. His auditors advised him to close the business and salvage what he could. It was the practical advice, the reasonable advice. But he had been studying my teaching, though he confessed he was skeptical. He had never truly tested this principle. Desperation forced his hand. One Tuesday, he received a letter from a real estate agent. The letter was bleak. It listed all the reasons why sales in his area had stalled and predicted a long, dark period of waiting. Now, most men would read such a letter, feel their hearts sink, and resign themselves to defeat. But this man did something different. He revised the letter. In his imagination, he rewrote it. He mentally saw words on that page indicating that the agent was eager to take his listing. He saw positivity, opportunity, momentum. He read this imaginary letter over and over in his mind until it felt more real to him than the physical letter in his hands. But he did not stop there. He extended his imaginal drama. He became the producer of a play, his play, and the theme was simple. The lot is sold for a profit. As the author, he wrote a brief scene. He saw himself standing in the real estate office. He extended his hand to the agent and said, "Thank you, sir." The agent replied, "It was a pleasure doing business with you." As the director, he rehearsed this scene in his imagination until it was vivid and real, and as the actor, he felt the relief that would be his if the burden were truly lifted. He did this for 3 days. That is all. 3 days of dwelling in a revised reality. On the 4th morning, the real estate agent, the very one who had sent the discouraging letter, called him on the phone. He had a buyer. And not just any buyer, a buyer ready to put down a deposit at the exact price the man had specified. 5 days after he constructed and enacted his imaginal scene, it became physical reality. He went to the office. He shook the agent's hand. He said, "Thank you, sir." The agent replied, "It was a pleasure doing business with you." Word for word, gesture for gesture. Exactly as he had imagined it. But here is what moved him most. It was not the money, though the money was desperately needed. It was the incontrovertible proof that he possessed a power within himself that could consciously create circumstances. He had revised the facts of life. He had falsified the letter, and in falsifying it in imagination, he had caused reality itself to conform to his revision. This is the secret of revision. You are not a victim of your past. The past is nothing more than a present memory. And when you revise that memory, when you replay the scene as it ought to have been played, you change not only your future, but the very structure of your present experience. Your debts, they are nothing more than unrevised scenes, playing themselves forward. Revise them, replay them as scenes of abundance, and you will watch as those debts quietly, mysteriously dissolve. Let me tell you now of a man who dared to assume. In my audience one evening sat a man who was, by his own confession, broke. He had read about the law of assumption in my books, but he had done nothing with it. That night, he decided to test it. He chose to imagine himself as the winner of the 5-10 pool at Caliente racetrack. This is no simple feat. In this pool, One must pick winners in the 5th through the 10th races. 6 races, 6 winners. The odds are staggering, but he was not thinking about odds. He was thinking about assumption. In his imagination, he stood at the track, sorting through his tickets. He felt in his hands the tickets of each winner. As he sorted them, he felt the thrill, the unmistakable sensation of having won. His body responded. He felt goosebumps rising on his arms. Then, in his imaginal scene, he saw himself approaching the cashier. He saw the cashier counting out a large sum of money. He felt himself placing that money beneath his shirt, against his chest, feeling its weight, its reality. This was his entire imaginal drama. And for 3 weeks, 21 nights, he enacted this scene before falling asleep. He lived it. He felt it. He became the man who had already won. After 3 weeks, he traveled physically to Caliente, and on that day, every detail of his imaginative play was realized. He sorted his tickets, feeling them in his hands. He felt the goosebumps. He approached the cashier. The only change was this. Instead of currency, the cashier handed him a check for $84,000. Now, after I told this story in a lecture, another man in the audience asked me if he could duplicate this experience. I told him he must decide his own imaginal scene, but whatever he chose, he must live in the end. He must not labor for the means. He must simply dwell imaginatively in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. 1 month later, he showed me a check for $16,000, won in the same 5-10 pool at the same racetrack. But this man wanted more than money. He wanted proof. He wanted to know if this was coincidence or law. So he dared to test it a second time. This time, he imagined having a sizable bank account. He imagined walking into 2 different banks. In each bank, he saw the manager smile appreciatively as he entered. He heard the teller's cordial greeting. He asked to see his statement. In one bank, he saw a balance of $10,000. In the other, $15,000. He did not imagine how this would happen. He did not scheme or plan or manipulate. He simply dwelt in the reality of it. And once again, his assumption hardened into fact. What these men discovered is what I am teaching you tonight. You do not need to know the way. You do not need to figure out the how. Your only task is to assume the state of consciousness of the one who already has what you desire. Live in that state. Feel from that state. And all things shall be added unto you. Let me share something personal. There was a time in my own life when I knew the weight of financial limitation, not crushing debt perhaps, but enough constraint to make me keenly aware of lack. And in that awareness of lack, I was perpetuating the very condition I despaired of. I remember the turning point clearly. I was lying in bed one night, and I caught myself rehearsing in my mind all the reasons I could not afford something I desired. I was building, with great conviction, a case for my own limitation. And then I stopped myself. I thought, what am I doing? I am using my imagination, the very power that creates worlds, to create more lack. I am God, imagining myself to be poor. And as long as I persist in this imagining, I must remain poor. In that moment, I made a decision. I would no longer consent to the testimony of my senses. I would no longer accept as final the evidence of my bank account, my income, my circumstances. Instead, I would assume, without evidence, without permission, without waiting for conditions to change, that I was the man I desired to be. I began to walk through my day assuming abundance. Not affirming it, not hoping for it, assuming it. I would pass a shop window and assume I could purchase anything in it if I wished. I would think of my bills and assume they were paid. I would imagine my bank statement and see exactly the figures I desired to see. At first, this felt like lying. My senses screamed at me that it was not true. But I persisted. I knew that I had to become, in consciousness, the man I desired to be, in fact. And then the world began to shift. Money came from unexpected sources. Opportunities appeared that had not existed before. Debts dissolved. Abundance flowed. But here is what I learned, and what I want you to understand. The money was never the point. The money was simply the shadow. What I had changed was the substance, my consciousness. I had stopped being the man who lacked and became the man who had. And the world, which is nothing but my consciousness pushed out, had no choice but to reflect that change. This is what I am teaching you. Not positive thinking, not wishful hoping, but a radical re-identification with a new state of being. Before we can move into the techniques themselves, you must understand the foundation upon which all of this rests. And that foundation is this: consciousness is the only reality. This is not philosophy. This is not religious belief. This is observable law. Listen carefully. You are not a body that possesses consciousness. You are consciousness, having a body experience. Your awareness, your I am, is the eternal, formless substance out of which all form arises. Every single thing in your world, every circumstance, every relationship, every debt, every dollar exists as it does because you are conscious of it being that way. Your world is your consciousness objectified. It is your consciousness made visible. When you say, "I am in debt," you are not describing a condition that exists independent of you. You are describing the state of consciousness you are currently occupying. And as long as you remain identified with that state, you must continue to see its reflection in your world. The debt is not the problem. The debt is the shadow. The problem is that you are standing in the light in such a way that your shadow takes the form of debt. Change where you stand, change your state of consciousness, and the shadow must change. Now, I know what your senses tell you. They tell you that the debt is real, that the bills are real, that the creditors are real, that you must deal with these things in the outer world. And I am not telling you to ignore your responsibilities. I am telling you that all these outer things are effects, not causes. And you cannot change an effect by fighting with it. You can only change an effect by changing the cause. The cause is consciousness. Your consciousness. Your I am. When I say I am speaking the name of God. I am is the self-definition of the Absolute. It is the foundation on which everything rests. The very center of your being is this awareness of being. You may forget who you are, where you are, what you are, but you cannot forget that you are. This I am is an empty, formless awareness. It has no qualities, no attributes, no definitions. It simply is. And whatever you attach to it, whatever you claim to be after the words I am, that you become. If you say I am in debt, you have defined your I am as in debt. And your I am, being the foundation of all that you experience, must objectify that definition. If you say I am struggling, you have defined your I am as struggling, and struggle must be your experience. But, and here is the glorious secret, if you say I am free, if you say I am abundant, if you say I am debt-free, and if you feel the naturalness of this statement, then your I am must objectify that instead. Your consciousness is not selective. It does not judge. It does not say, this is a good state, I will manifest it, or this is a bad state, I will not manifest it. It simply manifests whatever you are identified with. It is law. This means that every state already exists. Freedom from debt exists now, not in some distant future. It exists as a state of consciousness that you can occupy now. And the moment you occupy that state, the moment you become identified with it, it must begin to objectify itself in your world. You are not trying to create something that does not exist. You are claiming something that already exists and stepping into it through imagination. Now we come to the first technique, living in the end. This is also called thinking from the end, or assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Most people think of their desire. They stand in their present state, the state of being in debt, and they think about being free of debt. They imagine what it would be like. They hope for it. They long for it. They picture it as something that might happen in the future. And in doing so, they perpetuate the very state they wish to escape, because thinking of something places it at a distance. It keeps it separate from you. It keeps you in the state of wanting rather than the state of having. Thinking from the end is entirely different. It means you move in imagination to the end result, the state of being debt-free, and you think from that state. You do not look at it from the outside. You look out from it. Let me give you an example. If you are in debt and you think of being debt-free, you might imagine yourself opening your bank statement in the future and seeing a positive balance. You might imagine how happy you will be when your debts are gone. You are standing in the now of lack, looking toward a then of freedom. But when you think from the end, you become the person who is already debt-free. You do not imagine it happening in the future. You claim it as happening now. You close your eyes and you feel what it feels like to be free of all financial burden. You feel the relief, the peace, the security. You feel it now, not as something coming, but as something that is. This is the secret. The future exists now as a state of consciousness you can enter. And when you enter that state and make it feel natural, you pull its contents into your present experience. How do you do this practically? First, you must define your end clearly. Do not be vague. Do not say, I want to be financially better. Be specific. What does the end look like? For you, it might be opening a bank statement and seeing zero debt. It might be receiving a phone call from a creditor saying your account has been settled. It might be simply waking up in the morning and feeling the deep peace of knowing all is well financially. Choose a scene that implies the wish fulfilled. The scene does not need to be elaborate. It just needs to be something that could only happen if you were already debt-free. Second, you enter into that scene in imagination, not as an observer, but as the one experiencing it. You see through your own eyes. You hear with your own ears. You feel with your own body. Third, and this is absolutely essential, you generate the feeling that would be yours if this were happening in physical reality. This is what I mean by the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is not just visualizing, it is feeling, it is emotion, it is the inner sensation of relief, of joy, of gratitude, of freedom. The feeling is the secret, because feeling is the language of the subconscious. Your I am responds to feeling, not to thought. You can think about being debt-free all day long, and if you do not feel it, nothing will change. But the moment you feel it, truly feel it, you have touched the creative power within you. Now, how long do you do this? You do it until it feels natural. You do it until the imaginal act becomes as real to you as any physical act. You persist in the assumption. Many people fail here. They imagine their desire once or twice, and when nothing immediately changes in the outer world, they abandon it. They say, it does not work. But creation takes time to externalize. There is always an interval between the inner assumption and the outer manifestation. You must persist in your assumption, in your feeling, until the invisible hardens into the visible. This is what Scripture means when it says, "He who endures to the end shall be saved." The end is not the end of time. It is the end result, the wish fulfilled, and you must endure in that end, dwell in it, live from it, until it becomes fact. One more thing. While you are living in the end, the outer world may continue to show you evidence of debt. Bills may still come, creditors may still call, your bank account may still look the same. This is the test. You must learn to ignore the evidence of your senses, not by pretending it does not exist, but by recognizing it as the outpicturing of your former state. It is old news. It is yesterday's imagining made visible. It has no power to continue unless you give it power by reacting to it. Instead, you return again and again to your inner assumption. You close your eyes and you feel yourself debt-free. And gradually, sometimes suddenly, the outer world begins to conform. The second technique I am giving you tonight is revision. This is the art of rewriting your past. Now, you may ask, how can I rewrite the past? The past is done, it is fixed, it is unchangeable. But I tell you, the past is not fixed. The past is nothing more than a present memory. And memory is malleable. When you change the memory, you change the past. And when you change the past, you change the present and the future that flows from it. Every debt you carry began as an event in time. Perhaps you made a purchase you could not afford. Perhaps you lost a job. Perhaps you made a poor investment. Whatever the original event, it happened. And from that event, consequences have flowed forward like ripples in water. Most people believe they are prisoners of these past events. They say, I got into debt 5 years ago, and now I am stuck with it. They believe the past is determining their present. But here is the truth. It is not the past event itself that is binding you. It is your memory of the past event. It is the story you tell yourself about what happened. And you are replaying that story every time you think of it. You are keeping it alive. You are giving it fresh power to continue creating your present circumstances. Revision breaks this cycle. Revision means you go back in memory to the event that produced your current debt. You replay it in imagination, but this time, you do not replay it as it happened, you replay it as it should have happened. You revise it. Let me give you an example. Suppose you got into debt because you made an impulsive purchase 5 years ago, a purchase that seemed necessary at the time, but that you could not truly afford. That event happened. The debt began there. In revision, you would go back to that moment. You would see yourself standing in that store or sitting at that computer, but instead of seeing yourself make the purchase, you see yourself pause. You see yourself reconsider. You see yourself make a wise decision and walk away. You replay this scene over and over in imagination until it feels more real to you than the original memory. You feel the relief of having made a wise choice. You feel gratitude for your own prudence. And here is what happens. As you revise the past, the present begins to change. The debt that flowed from that original event begins to dissolve. Money appears to pay it off, or the debt is forgiven, or circumstances align to make it disappear. The means will vary, but the end is the same. The debt vanishes as if the original event never occurred. Now, I can hear the skeptic saying, but that makes no sense. How can changing a memory change present facts? And I answer, because past, present, and future are one continuous structure in consciousness. You are not moving through time, you are moving through states of consciousness. And every state contains within it a past, a present, and a future. When you change your state by revising the past, you step into a new structure, one in which the debt-creating event never happened or happened differently. And from that new structure, a new present must emerge. This is what Scripture means when it says, though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Sin is simply missing the mark. It is any imaginal act that did not serve you. And through revision, even the deepest errors can be corrected. Now, how do you practice revision? Every night, before you fall asleep, review the day. Look at it honestly. Were there moments when you felt lack? Moments when you worried about money? Moments when you reacted to bills or creditors? Revise those moments. Replay them as you wish they had occurred. See yourself feeling abundant instead of lacking. See yourself receiving good news instead of bad. See yourself calm and confident instead of anxious. Do this faithfully, and you will discover that your days begin to improve. The experiences that formerly caused you anxiety either cease to happen or lose their power to disturb you. But do not stop there. Go back further. Go back to the original events that created your debt. Find them in memory and revise them, change them, replay them with new content. You are not lying to yourself. You are correcting a mistake. You are planting new seeds in the garden of your past, and those seeds will grow forward into your present and blossom in your future. The third technique is the most foundational of all. It is the technique of pure I am consciousness and the assumption of the new state. I have told you that consciousness is the only reality. Now, I am going to tell you how to use this consciously to transform your relationship with debt. Your I am, your pure awareness, is God. It is the causeless cause. It is the substance out of which all things are formed, and whatever you attach to your I am, that you become. Right now, if you are in debt, you are saying, perhaps unconsciously, I am in debt. And your I am, being the creative power that it is manifesting that state for you. But understand, I am in debt is not a fact about you. It is a state you are occupying, and you can vacate that state and occupy another. There is a state called debt-free. It exists right now, not in the future, not as a possibility. It exists as a complete, perfect, fully formed state of consciousness. And every state of consciousness has within it all the circumstances, experiences, and feelings that belong to that state. Your task is to occupy that state, to become identified with it, to say with feeling and conviction, I am debt-free. Now, when you first say this, your senses will scream at you. They will show you your bills, your bank account, your credit score. They will say, this is a lie, you are not debt-free, and here you must make a choice. Will you believe your senses, or will you believe your imagination? Will you consent to the evidence of the outer world, or will you stand firm in your inner assumption? If you choose imagination, if you persist in the feeling that you are debt-free, regardless of what your senses say, you will win. You must win. Because consciousness is the only reality, and your I am cannot remain identified with debt-free consciousness without that consciousness objectifying itself. Here is how you do this practically. Find a quiet moment. Sit or lie down and close your eyes. Turn your attention away from the outer world and toward your inner being. Begin to say to yourself, silently and feelingly, I am. Just that. I am. Do not condition it yet. Just feel your pure awareness. Feel the fact that you are, not that you are this or that, just that you are. As you do this, you may begin to feel a kind of expansion, a sense of being more than your body, more than your circumstances. This is good. This is you touching the formless, faceless awareness that is the foundation of all that is. In this expanded state, this state of pure I am, you are not limited by anything. You are not bound by your past, your present, or even your perceived future. You are infinite potential. Now, from this place of unlimited being, make your claim. Say with feeling, I am debt-free, or I am abundant, or I am financially secure. Feel the truth of this statement. Do not think about whether it is true according to your bank account. Feel it as true in the depths of your being. Let your I am absorb this new definition. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. And when it becomes natural, when it no longer feels like you are pretending, you have succeeded. You have assumed the new state, and the new state must objectify itself. Remember, your I am is the door. Nothing can enter your world except through the door of your own consciousness. If you want freedom from debt to enter your experience, you must become conscious of being free from debt. You must open the door by assuming the state. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved." He was speaking as I am consciousness, and he was saying, there is no other way. You cannot get to freedom by working harder, by struggling, by manipulating circumstances. You can only get there by entering through the door of consciousness, by becoming, in your awareness, that which you desire to be in fact. Now let me give you a specific practice you can begin tonight. I call this the nightly technique, and it incorporates all three principles I have shared with you. Tonight, when you go to bed, do not simply fall asleep out of exhaustion. Use this liminal state, the state between waking and sleeping, as a sacred workshop for creation. Here are the steps. First, relaxation. Lie on your back in a comfortable position. Close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths and allow your body to relax completely. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the bed. Release all tension. This physical relaxation helps quiet the mind and makes you receptive to imaginative work. Second, revision of the day. Review the events of today. Did anything happen related to your debt that disturbed you? A bill? A phone call? A worry? Find that moment and revise it. If you received a bill, see yourself opening it and finding that it has been paid. If you had a worry, replay that moment with yourself feeling calm and secure. If someone said something about your finances that troubled you, revise the conversation to one of encouragement and good news. Do not rush this. Take your time. Make the revision vivid. And most importantly, feel the relief, the joy, the naturalness of the revised scene. Third, assumption of the end. Now move to your chosen scene, the scene that implies you are already debt-free. This is your end scene, and it should be something simple and repeatable. Perhaps you see yourself checking your bank balance and seeing abundance. Perhaps you hear a friend congratulate you on your financial freedom. Perhaps you simply feel a profound peace and relief in your chest as you fall asleep. Whatever your scene, enter it now. See it through your own eyes. Hear it with your own ears. But above all, feel it. Feel the reality of it. Feel the naturalness of being the one to whom this is happening. Fourth, the feeling of isn't it wonderful? As you are dwelling in your scene, allow yourself to feel a simple, childlike joy. Let the words arise in your consciousness. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? Do not think these words mechanically. Feel them. Feel the wonder. Feel the gratitude. Feel the delight of being free. Fifth, fall asleep in the feeling. Here is the secret. You must fall asleep in this feeling. Do not let your mind wander to worry or doubt as you drift off. Hold the feeling, maintain the scene, and let yourself slip into sleep while still dwelling in the wish fulfilled. Sleep is the moment when the conscious mind releases its grip and the subconscious takes over. Whatever you impress upon your subconscious in this drowsy state will be accepted and acted upon. This is why I say, the last thing you think of before sleep becomes the first thing you create. Do this every single night without exception. If you wake in the middle of the night, return to your scene. If you have trouble sleeping, use the time to dwell even longer in the feeling. This nightly practice is your foundation. It is the most powerful thing you can do, and if you are faithful to it, you will see results. The moment you wake in the morning, before you open your eyes, before you check your phone, before you begin the day's activities, spend 5 minutes in the assumption of your new state. While still lying in bed, with your eyes closed, say to yourself, I am debt-free, I am abundant, I am financially secure. Say it with feeling. Do not just repeat words. Feel the truth of the statement. Let your body respond to it. You may feel a sense of relief, of gratitude, of joy. Let these feelings arise naturally. Then, visualize yourself moving through your day as this new person. See yourself opening your mail with peace, not anxiety. See yourself making decisions from abundance, not from lack. See yourself going about your business with the quiet confidence of one who has no financial burdens. This morning assumption sets the tone for your entire day. It is like tuning an instrument before you play it. You are tuning your consciousness to the frequency of freedom, so that everything that happens today will resonate with that frequency. Do not skip this practice. Even if you are rushed, even if you have only 3 minutes, give yourself those 3 minutes. They are worth more than any amount of frantic activity. As you rise and begin your day, carry this assumption with you. When you catch yourself slipping back into old patterns of thought, worry, anxiety, feeling lack, gently correct yourself. Return to your assumption. Remind yourself, I am debt-free. This is who I am now. You are training your consciousness to remain in the new state. And with repetition, this will become your natural, automatic way of being. Throughout your day, whenever something happens that contradicts your desired state, a bill arrives, a creditor calls, you see your bank balance, use instant revision. Do not react. Do not allow the old pattern of anxiety to take hold. Instead, immediately revise the experience in your imagination. If a bill arrives, imagine opening it and seeing paid in full stamped across it. Feel the relief. Then put the bill down and return to your day. If you check your bank balance and see a number that disturbs you, close your eyes for 10 seconds. See the number you want to see. Feel what you would feel if that were your actual balance. Then open your eyes and move forward. This takes discipline. Your habitual reaction is to worry, to calculate, to problem solve from a place of lack. But you must train yourself to react differently. You must train yourself to immediately revise any unwanted experience. With time, this becomes automatic. You become so quick at revision that negative experiences hardly register before you have transformed them. And gradually, you will notice that fewer and fewer negative experiences occur at all, because you are no longer sustaining them with your attention and feeling. Once a week, I suggest Sunday evening, sit down and conduct a thorough review of your week. Ask yourself these questions. How many times did I successfully dwell in the feeling of being debt-free? How many times did I catch myself worrying about money and fail to correct it? What evidence have I seen, even small evidence, that my assumption is beginning to harden into fact? Be honest with yourself, but also be kind. This is not about judgment, it is about awareness. You are training yourself in a new way of being, and training requires patience. If you find that you have been inconsistent, that you have allowed doubt and worry to dominate your week, do not despair. Simply recommit. Make a new decision to be more faithful to your assumption in the coming week. If you have been consistent, acknowledge yourself, celebrate the discipline, and look for signs, however small, that things are shifting. Perhaps you received an unexpected refund. Perhaps a debt was postponed. Perhaps you simply felt more peace than usual. These are seeds sprouting. Honor them. Also, use this weekly review to deepen your revision. Are there past events related to your debt that you have not yet revised? This is the time to go back and attend to them. The more thoroughly you revise your past, the more quickly your present will transform. Finally, set your intention for the coming week. Reaffirm your commitment to the 3 techniques. Remind yourself why you are doing this. Reconnect with the vision of yourself as free. This weekly practice keeps you on track. It prevents you from drifting back into unconsciousness. It ensures that you are actively, consciously creating your new reality rather than passively accepting your old one. Now you have all 3 techniques. You have living in the end, you have revision, you have the pure assumption of your I am, and you have specific practices to apply them daily. The question now is not whether this will work. The question is whether you will do it. Will you give yourself fully to these practices? Will you persist until the invisible becomes visible? Will you dare to become, in consciousness, the one who is free? If you will, then let me close with this final word. My friend, tonight you have received 3 keys, 3 techniques that have freed countless souls from the bondage of debt. But these techniques are useless if they remain as information in your mind. They must become action in your consciousness. So I ask you now, will you begin tonight? Will you lie down in your bed this very evening and practice what I have taught you? Will you revise your day, assume your new state, and fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled? I promise you this. If you do, and if you persist, your world will change, not because of some external force, not because of luck or fate or the kindness of others, though these may be the means through which your good comes. Your world will change because you will change. You will become, in consciousness, a different person, and a different person must have a different world. The debt you see before you now is nothing more than a shadow of who you have been believing yourself to be. Change your belief, change your assumption, and the shadow must vanish. Remember the woman who whispered, "Isn't it wonderful for 60 nights and received abundance beyond her wildest imagining?" Remember the businessman who revised a single letter and found his salvation. Remember the men who dared to assume victory and walked away with their desires manifested. These were not special people. They were not more gifted than you. They simply understood and applied the law. And the law is no respecter of persons. It works for whoever works with it. Your consciousness is the potter. Your world is the clay. Everything you see before you, including your debt, is the clay shaped by your former consciousness. But you are not bound by what you have created. You can reshape the clay at any moment by reshaping your consciousness. So go now. Leave this place and enter your inner sanctuary. Close your eyes and become, in imagination, the one who is free. Feel it, live it, persist in it until it hardens into fact. And know this, I have given you not just techniques, but a revelation. You are not a limited being, subject to conditions. You are infinite consciousness, forever creating your experience. Once you truly know this, once you feel this in the depths of your being, nothing can ever bind you again. Before you go, I ask you this. If what I have shared tonight has touched something within you, if you feel the truth of it resonating in your soul, then subscribe to this channel. There is more I wish to share with you. More techniques, more stories, more revelations of the creative power that dwells within you. And if this message has helped you, please press the like button. Not for my sake, but so that others who are seeking might find it. Your simple action might be the means by which another soul discovers their freedom. Finally, leave a comment below. Tell me, what is the one scene you will use tonight to assume your freedom? What feeling will you fall asleep in? I want to hear from you. And know that when you share your intention publicly, you are making a commitment not just to me, but to yourself and to the creative power within you. Remember, everything is possible to him who believes. And belief is not hoping, it is not wishing. Belief is assumption felt as natural. It is consciousness identified with the wish fulfilled. Go and do this. And may you awaken in a world transformed by the power of your own imagination, for imagination is God, and God is within you as your very own wonderful human imagination. I am with you always. Peace be unto you.